Well, in other news now, Deputy President Paul Mashatile will be answering oral questions in the National Council of Provinces at 2 p.m. Well, it's way past 2 p.m. and we cross live to that right now.
Equity and tolerance amongst all citizens, thereby enhancing society's overall well-being. We also welcome the observations of the SABC that over the last 30 years of democracy, South Africa has made significant strides towards building a united, non-racial and non-sexist society and improving the lives of all its people. In this regard, we have worked together to establish a progressive constitutional order, expand access to social infrastructure and services to millions of people, and set our economy on a path of reform. However, our country is once again at a crossroads with uncertainty as to where it will go tomorrow. The economic and social legacy of our past persists. The political environment is conflictual. The economy is not growing fast enough. Poverty is widespread, and there is a growing sense of social discontent and alienation. It is time to reset and reimagine our country for posterity. This must be done by South African citizens themselves through a process of purpose-directed, courageous conversations. Hence, the envisaged national dialogue that will be focusing on the following critical areas: economic transformation, inclusion and empowerment, poverty, inequality and hunger, governance and a capable, ethical, developmental state, crime and lawlessness, nation building and social cohesion, advancing constitutional rights and principles, promoting progressive values, that is moral regeneration, participatory democracy and active citizenry, and lastly but not least, land reform and food security. Honorable Chairperson, in addition to these critical matters, we are also addressing social ills such as gender-based violence and femicide, racism, crime, corruption, in support of promoting and strengthening social cohesion. This work is led by the JCPS, including the Department of Women, Youth and People with Disabilities. The Department of Sports, Arts and Culture is also implementing various programs and activities that includes community conversations and dialogue programs. Through these programs, communities from diverse social, racial, political, and religious backgrounds get a platform to discuss complex and sensitive issues that foster social cohesion. Furthermore, the Department of Social Development is implementing men and boys championing change programs. Honorable Chairperson, in conclusion, through the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, the government is leading initiatives to promote the importance of the value of the Constitution, constitutional democracy, and the Bill of Rights. These include dialogues aimed at increasing and deepening constitutionalism, respect for human rights, and the rule of law, especially amongst the most vulnerable and marginalized people. I thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. I'll now afford Honorable Muimang an opportunity to ask a supplementary question to the Deputy President.
Modulastulo wa ntlo ya bosetšhaba ya kgaolo ya di-province ke tse tlotlo kae kgolo ke lebise go motlatsa president wa naga ya rona le maloko a ntlo a kgaolo ya di-province. Thank you, Honorable Deputy President, for reassuring the public that indeed the values as enshrined in our Constitution in terms of the rule of law, is sacrosanct. However, there seems to be a semblance of opposition to government efforts that is beginning to emerge to undermine the effort on the part of the government to address the historical inequalities and promotion of economic transformation agenda, among others, the issues of black economic empowerment, preferential procurement, and even the extent of undermining the expropriation of land. But recently, the gazetted review of broad-based black economic empowerment licensing requirements for satellite services companies to address economic inequalities and promote the participation of previously disadvantaged groups. And this is beginning to send a message, DP, that there is beginning to emerge an semblance of undermining the agenda of transformation by certain members of the cabinet in terms of undermining the agenda to transform our country. So now the question is, what mechanism is the cabinet putting in place, or measures that the cabinet is putting in place to defend this agenda of transformation? Thank you, DP.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chief Whip. Honorable Deputy President, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Honorable Muemang. Firstly, let me indicate that there are a number of programs that are in place and a number of measures that we have put in place to ensure that we advance transformation in the country. You have correctly quoted the BEE Act that is in place to ensure that we empower those previously disadvantaged. That act is currently being implemented by government departments, and also efforts are being made at the moment to ensure that we also ensure proper reforms for our procurement policies in order to advance BEE, which is really what is focusing on those previously disadvantaged to come into the mainstream of the economy. Secondly, we now have the National Development Plan that is in place that is going to also ensure that we advance transformation. You've also quoted the Expropriation Act to ensure that we do redress, particularly to ensure that people have access to land to be able to farm, to build their houses, and so on. Yes, indeed, there is a concern that there are those who seek to undermine some of these transformative pieces of legislation that have been passed, particularly by the previous administration. But the government is quite resolute that those pieces of legislation, those laws that were passed by the previous administration must be implemented because they were passed by Parliament. So we are quite resolute on that. Indeed, if someone wants to ensure that they want to make some changes on any of these laws, that must then come to Cabinet and then back to Parliament. There will be no shortcut because laws are made and passed by Parliament, and it is this Parliament, both the National Assembly and the NCOP, that are safeguarding our laws. And therefore, we have made it clear to all the ministers, should you come across something you want to change, something that you have observed that needs to be changed, you have to follow that process back to cabinet and back to parliament. But laws that were passed will not be willy-nilly changed. Thank you very much, Honorable Moimani, for that question. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. We do have follow-up questions to the question that was asked by Honorable Mimang. I will take the first one from Honorable Andrianse.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Deputy President. Considering the sensitive and complex nature of racial and social divisions in our society, what safeguards or strategies will the government implement to ensure that the national dialogues remain constructive, prevent polarization or superficial engagements, and ultimately lead to tangible policy actions that effectively address long-standing inequalities and promote genuine social cohesion and economic growth? Thank you.
Honorable.
Coming back to you now from that NCOP session this afternoon where Deputy President Paul Mashatile is taking oral questions.